Everybody ready? Well, good afternoon, and I would be remiss if I didn't start today, Veterans Day, by taking this opportunity with the platform I have to thank the men and women who proudly serve our country and who have proudly served our country and provide us the freedom that we all enjoy to do, or what we all enjoy doing. So to the men and women who have served our country and are currently serving our country, thank you. It's been a tough couple of days for myself and all associated with the Razorback football program. I made a decision that there needed to be a change in the leadership of our program, and I want to thank Chancellor Steinmetz, President Bobbitt, Chairman Goodson, and the System Board of Trustees for their support of that decision. I do firmly and confidently believe it was the best professional decision and the best decision for our Razorback football program at this time. What makes it really challenging for someone that sits in my chair is the personal impact that I know my decision has and will have on the men and women that work in our football program right now, their spouses and their children and their families, and the impact that I know this decision has on them. I thought our football program had taken some steps backwards in the past few weeks. I had one goal for our football program, one main goal for our football program as we headed into this season. It was a simple goal. I wanted us to be competitive game in and game out. Not to win the Southeastern Conference, but to be competitive game in and game out. And I think that was clear over the past couple of weeks that we were no longer competitive. And a big thing about that is our student athletes. Those 120 men worked their tails off for 9 months to have the reward and the opportunity to put on that uniform on 12 Saturdays during the fall. And that should be a rewarding experience for them. That should be something that they enjoy. And as I spent time with our student athletes before, during, and after games, I got the sense that they were no longer enjoying that experience on Saturdays. And our focus of our Department of Athletics day in and day out is on the success of our student athletes, all 465 of those student athletes. And we had 120 student athletes within our football program that were no longer experiencing the success I thought they needed to experience. Barry Loney's a former student athlete. He's a Razorback through and through. When I called him yesterday morning and told him the decision I'd made with the change in the leadership, and I asked Barry to step up, and I asked Barry under very tough circumstances to take on the leadership of our football program. And without pause, he told me yes. I know I will get Barry's best during the next 3 weeks because he loves his football program, he loves this university, he loves this state, and he's invested in what we're trying to do. And I know he truly loves the 120 men that he's now leading within our football program. As I begin this search, I have no doubt that we will have a very strong candidate pool for this head coaching position. Why do I believe that? First, we are the University of Arkansas. We have a very proud and storied tradition within our football program that includes 42 bowl games, a national championship, 13 conference championships, multiple All-Americans and Hall of Fame inductees. We have and we offer our student athletes some of the best facilities in the country. We compete in the Southeastern Conference, and we have a passionate fan base that so desperately wants for this program to be successful. We've had many of our athletic programs currently that are competing on a national level and winning national championships within our athletic department. Our football program can be one of those programs.
Thank you, Hunter. Coach Lynn.
Well, first of all, I want to say thanks to Hunter for the opportunity and the belief that he had in me to be able to be the guy to step in. As he said, they're under very difficult circumstances. There's other guys on our staff that obviously could have been capable of doing the same thing, and so I appreciate the opportunity that Hunter's given me. I obviously would be remiss without thanking Chad for 2 years ago when he came in and transitioned from our staff from Rhett Bielema to think enough of me to be able to keep me to be a part of this program and school that means so much to me and my family, so I'm be very always grateful for that from Coach Morris. I couldn't help but to think and get a chuckle today as I was thinking about the press conference today, to think about 27 years ago. As a football player here, I was kind of thrust into a similar situation. And for those...
And welcome in. It's our Monday edition here of OTH on the Hill Patching Sports Talk Radio, coming to you each and every day here on KDSJ 479. And it's official. Chad Morris has been let go as the Arkansas head football coach. The announcement came shortly around 10:30 yesterday morning. On a Sunday, we had heard, rumblings while at the stadium on Saturday at the ball game that this was possibly coming down the pipeline. I feel like Hunter Yurachek, when meeting with him today, and their interim coach Barry Lunny, felt like I got the answers that I was looking for. I really felt that this was a perfect time. Being at that stadium, and I want to bring in and talk with my producer co-host Demetrius Johnson. I've been around this program, and I was telling someone at the game for 48 years. I'm 48 right now. I can think of going to games as early as 5-6 years old. And never had I had a feeling entering that stadium, Donald W. Real Saturday, as I had on, that day. You knew that it was a low point in Razorback football. Like I said, there's just so much going on surrounding this. This low point. 8 years, I know now. You give Chad a little bit of it because I think the biggest thing with Chad and where he went wrong, Demetrius, is the lack of being able to motivate these young men to be a head football coach. I think, and in particular in football, it's such an emotional sport. You have to have a guy that can galvanize your energy and make you want to go out and succeed. Have you believing that you can do things that maybe you never thought you could do for one another? And I just didn't see that with this football staff, Demetrius. I mean, where are you at with that? Because I saw several times, I've been looking for it, and it goes all the way back to the Brett Bielema area. Arkansas, I think, next head coach has to be an emotional guy, has to be a motivator, and he has to care about his young men 24/7.
I was never really sold on Chad 100%. I was one of those guys that anytime somebody gets an opportunity to do a job, I always give them the benefit of the doubt, and I give them the chance to kind of right that ship, whether that be good or bad. And Chad honestly lost me last year after the Colorado State game. That's a game to this day that I still talk to you about when I'm referring to Chad.
Right.
And not only Chad, Coach Craddock as well. That was just a game that I felt like really showed their ability to coach. And I think when I saw that game to be up in an away game, you're beating a team, 21-0? Was it 21-0 they were beating Colorado State? Right. And you come back to lose 35-21? Was that was a score, something like that?
I think 35-27 or so. It was
so one more touchdown.
Ridiculously blown lead.
That game right there to me was the epitome of Chad Morris's coaching career here at the University of Arkansas. I think he was way over his head. He just never really made the tough decisions that I needed and wanted to see from him. I'm one of those guys that I don't care about you being emotional. I don't care about you rah-rahing, because I think that's why you have a staff. You have guys in place to do the things that you're not efficient at. But if you're going to lead a team, you have to be the decision maker. And to me, Chad was not a tough decision maker. He didn't know how to make those tough decisions in crucial moments in the game, to where you will see Nick Saban. If Nick Saban's offensive coordinator is calling a bad game, Nick Saban gonna chew him out. He gonna grab the clipboard. You know what? You're not even. Don't even worry about it. Go sit on the bench with the rest of the players. I'll call the rest of the game. And it was moments in Chad's career where I felt like he never snapped. He never. You mentioned it to me last week where Greg Brooks got burnt over top, and Chad Morrison brings him to the sideline and pats him on the back. I don't want a coach like that. I want a coach that's gonna, yell at me. I want to not necessarily. I'm not saying cuss at me derogatory or anything like that, but let me know that I made a mistake and show that he cares about us winning. And he just had a lackluster attitude the entire time, and I just never was sold with Chad. He just reminded me of a car salesman.
Well, I mean, and now is the interesting part as to who will Arkansas get. You hear a lot of people. Such and such won't come here. This guy won't come here. I think there's a lot more. This job is more enticing than I think some people really give credit to this Arkansas program. Yeah, this is a program that has not had the success over the last 7-8 years, but let's make no bones about this. I mean, the right coach with the right attitude can get this thing back and get this thing back really quickly. As you look at the facilities and you look at the support financially that the next coach is going to have. My main thing, and we had a question from, I believe, Christopher Shaw. What do you guys think of Dan Enos, Demetrius?
I like Dan Enos. You know, that was a guy that I felt they should have put in as the interim coach when they fired Brett Bielema. I think he was a guy that when you talk about the type of offense that even when Chad's running right now, I think Enos was an innovative coach. He had the ability to adjust and adapt, and I felt like he was one of the reasons Brett Bielema was able to stick out his career as long as he did was when he hired Enos, because it took him.
Christopher says Dan Enos, Mike Leach, Lane Kiffin were three of his candidates.
I mean,
I'm not a big Mike Leach guy. I'm sorry. I mean, I understand, but there are some good things. His connections to the Texas high school coaches, but I'm not really sold on any of the defensive scheme.
Today's Veterans Day, so I gotta take a line from my dad's book. I want a championship coach,
and from us here at On the Hill to all veteran, all our nation's military, want to say a happy Veterans Day. Like I said, I wouldn't be sitting here today doing what I'm doing had it not been from all the sacrifices that our that our military men and women have to go through and what they sacrifice.
Because best believe my dad gave me a call as soon as he got the notice that Chad was fired. He called me and was like, I hate to say it, son, but I told you.
We got some more. I mean, these candidates. James Moorhead says Les Miles.
I like Gene Chisnick. I like Gene. To me, that's a guy that's very innovative. He understands offense, and I think now, for so long, SEC has always been known for a defense. And I'm not saying you have to have a defense, but now you have to have the ability to score 40-plus points. You just seen Alabama and LSU go to 40-plus points in a ball game. It's no longer those 17-10s, those 7-10 games.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw out I want you to give me your top five. What if you have candidates? Give me 5 candidates.
Man, I probably couldn't even name you.
Top of your head.
I probably couldn't even name you 5 coaches that I felt fit Arkansas, because you have to be a different type of coach to really come in Arkansas. Because if you have too big of a name, other schools want you. So Arkansas has to be one of those schools that you want to come here. And we were talking off air before we came on. Sam Pittman.
Real quick, before I want to say Christopher Shaw. I want to say thank you. He tunes in all the way from Fort Benning, Georgia. He tunes in to our broadcast. I want to thank you. Great questions, Christopher. Keep them coming. Keep viewing our show as we love your support. But back to you, Demetrius, before I interrupt. I got to show our listeners love.
I was just going to say Sam Pittman. I think that's the guy.
Did you say that again?
Sam Pittman. I think that's the guy for the job. When you look at even Brett Bielema and the guys that he brought in, Sam Pittman was such a cornerstone piece to guys having success during that Brett Bielema era. And he's a proven coach. He's a proven recruiter. He's an emotional guy. He understands Arkansas. He knows what it takes to get Arkansas to a level. He understands the SEC. He's a well-respected coach.
I had a very important conversation with Sam Pittman, and I believe it was the first signing class of Brett Bielema. It was the Austin Allen group, and had a chance to have some availability with the assistant coaches. And on that day, I had a chance. I was talking with Sam and had asked Sam, is there any type of dream job, head coaching job that you'd have your out? And he looked dead at me and said Arkansas would be his dream job. And then I had a chance to watch Sam and the way that he carried himself and the way that he was with those players. And it was just not those offensive linemen, but it was the defensive line. And it seemed to me like every position, those players really bought in and really cared for Sam. And he had a way with them. And I just feel like, I told my brother this, Demetrius. I feel like Sam Pittman could be the Ed Orgeron. And what I mean by that is a guy that he's an offensive line coach. Ed Orgeron was a defensive line coach. He's a heck of a recruiter first and foremost. But the biggest thing I think both of those had is they understand what you have to have on the offensive and defensive lines in the SEC. Sam Pittman, with his stance at Tennessee, Arkansas, Georgia, has been in some, North Carolina, has been in some areas where I think as a head coach, you can always go back and recruit. And I feel like Sam's personality would be one that coaches would not like to work for him, but work with him. I think he'd get some great offensive-minded offense coordinator and defensive-minded coordinator, and allow them to expand and do their jobs. I think that's something. Also, too, another candidate, Demetrius, that I would like, for Hunter to reach out to is George Stewart, a former offensive line coach, former offensive lineman here at the University of Arkansas. Just felt like him watching George play. I loved the way he was always vocal and the way he cared, his passion for the Razorbacks. I think coming from the NFL and understanding what it's going to take, and having to have worn so many hats at the next level, with that being the NFL, the Shield. I just feel like his passion for the game, and he's an African American, and I don't mean anything that, I sit here, I am too an African American, don't mean it that he should have it. But I think kind of step out of the box. Another candidate, Matt Campbell, comes to mind there at Iowa State. Love his passion. I had a chance to look at his staff, a lot of Southern ties, and you can tell that they're one of the teams outside of Kansas State that really get after you on defense and play. And you watch him and you watch his staff, he's young and vibrant and has a lot of passion. I think that's what it's going to take, here for Arkansas, its next head coach. And those are things that, those are the top three candidates that I would look at, if I were Hunter Yurachek, going forward. I mean, you can't go wrong with any of those. You hear P.J. Fleck, but what I don't want to hear is the Houston Nuts. I don't want to hear the Bobby Petrinos. Don't want to hear those names. That's on pass. And Arkansas fans, you got to realize, move on. The mark of insanity is going back and doing the same exact thing. Why would you want to go rehire a Houston Nut or a Bobby Petrino? You've had those stints. Now, and I remember a day when Houston Nutt came to this stadium in Fayetteville, Arkansas with his Ole Miss Rebels. You guys weren't nice, and he wasn't nice with the attitude that he showed going off of the football field. There was a lot of, back and forth hatred going on. So why would you want to coach like that? You can't hate somebody a couple of years ago and then wanting to come back. Same with Bobby Petrino. Did people, Demetrius, not look at how things ended at Western Kentucky, and in particular at Louisville? We can't keep thinking about those days. Those were 8-9 years ago when Bobby Petrino was here, and even longer for Houston Nutt. Let's go and find the best coach that gets these kids right now, that can touch these kids that they have at the University of Arkansas. These millennials, this is a totally different genre of individual athletically now, totally different. And I mean, you have to connect as a head coach, and I think more so the head coach has to be a father, because most of these kids, in the SEC, and let's just face it, the majority are African Americans. That's not, say something that we don't know. These kids come out of single parent homes, so you have to be able to connect with these guys when they're having bad days. You got to know inside and out about your team. When someone comes into a press conference and asks you about a kid's injury, you got to know when that surgery is. You can't give a date. You got to know about your team. And I think that's another thing that I think Coach Morris fell short of, really understanding and getting to know each one of his players. You got 120 guys that, as a head coach, you have to know. You just have to. I mean, it's your program. I think, as a coach, you can be you have a message, but I think you get messengers. And with that, what I mean by that is having a team, a group of counselors, team-led counselors that can exercise it and teach your team the message of the head coach. And I think that's something that's going to have to really, really take a forefront in the head coach, be the leader of every single thing in his program, Demetrius. I mean, I think that's where Arkansas has to go. And I really feel like Hunter Yurachek, when you look at his two hires, Eric Musselman and Jordan Weber, we already see the fruits of what Eric is doing. I think Weber's going to do some really, really big things with, the places she's been, the things she's accomplished. I mean, she's going to be able to recruit, and girls that are going to come here are really going to listen to her and give them their all based on what she's done. And, she understands that they're going to be trying to get to where she's going. And that's what I think in the SEC, you said it, it's going to take a proven winner and a guy that does not believe that you can't. It cannot be a word in this coach's vocabulary that takes this job. You can't get this one wrong, Demetrius. I mean, this one is the biggest hire in the Hunter Yurachek era because football is your breadwinner.
I think it's the biggest hire in Arkansas history. When you look at it, Arkansas has never had this consecutive back-to-back losing seasons in the manner that they lost. Even dating back to Brett Bielema, we can bump Brett Bielema. Let's go back to even John L. So you're talking about almost 10 plus years. What, since 2011, 2012? Was that Bob Petrino's last year? 2012.
What was that?
Bob Petrino's last year, 2012.
Yeah, 2011.
2011. So you're talking almost 10 plus years of losing because Brett had one good year.
Right.
We'll give him one because that Liberty Bowl was okay. We barely sketched to that Liberty Bowl that year. But outside of that Cotton Bowl win was the highlight of his career. And that to me was where we messed up.
Really, I go back to the Texas Bowl when they beat Texas. That was the highest rated defense that Arkansas has had in a long time under former defensive coordinator Rob Smith when they were ranked 10th. But you're talking about a defensive line with Spade, the likes of
Randy Ramsey, you got Dietrich Wise, you got Trey Flowers.
Darius Philon.
Yeah, you had NFL players.
You had big time football players, but the main thing you did have was guys that were dogs and that played with passion on that side of the ball, and it carried and permeated throughout the whole team. Guys were leaders, and they made each and every one of their brothers be held accountable. And as a result, I thought they played their best game that night in Houston in the Texas Bowl. And you felt when you left that stadium, hey, this program under Brett Bielema might be heading in the right direction. Then following, Randy Shannon moves on, Joel Thomas moves on. And then shortly after that, Sam Pittman and Jim Chaney moved on. And I thought once you lost those four coaches, the wheels totally came off. And there been so many blown recruiting deals. And like I said, recruiting's the lifeblood of your program.
You know what? If Arkansas, people would be shocked about the kids that Arkansas looked over. And if we said some of the names that Coach Brett Bielema had the chance to really sign to Arkansas, people wouldn't even believe it. There's about 3 or 4 players that are All-Americans on Alabama that either in the NFL now or still currently on Alabama's roster that wanted to come to Arkansas when Brett Bielema was here and he was too scared to take them. And that to me, you talk about it all the time, and it only takes you to mess up one recruiting class to really fall behind the ranks of an SEC program because recruiting is such a big deal when you're talking about the best conference in college football. That's what makes SEC the best conference in college football because this is where all the top recruits want to come. This is where you want to play to go to the NFL. And Arkansas, to me, has definitely destroyed that conversation of even being competitive in the SEC. And that to me is scary because when you look at Mississippi State, you look at Ole Miss, those programs aren't in good condition. So just think about where Arkansas really, 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 really is from a program standpoint. And then not only that, you put more pressure on next year because you're going to have to play some in-state Arkansas schools. So what happens when you lose to Pine? If I'm not saying we do lose to Pine Bluff, what happens if we lose to Pine Bluff, Arkansas? Then you're going to start hearing whispers of, okay, is this the Arkansas school that's supposed to be in the SEC? Because we're already hearing kind of murmurs, and I don't think Arkansas is going to leave the SEC. But what it is that you lose the power of being the king. Everybody talking about what makes the Razorback special is we're the NFL team inside of Arkansas. Well, you lose to a couple of these in-state schools, you're no longer going to have that brand that goes with that Razorback saying, "Hey, this is a team everybody gets on. We're the NFL team in state," because now you've lost that prestige, status of losing to a HBCU school and that has less money, less talent, less everything. So I think this is really one of the biggest hires in the history of Arkansas.
Well, we're going to momentarily let you hear a little bit more from today's press conference with Athletic Director Hunter Yurachek and new interim head football coach Barry Lunny. And then we'll be back to talk much, much more as there's going to be a new era in Arkansas Razorback football. And we'll continue to talk about it and see if we can come up with a few answers. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Back in a bit.
We're no longer enjoying that experience on Saturdays. And our focus of our Department of Athletics day in and day out is on the success of our student athletes, all 465 of those student athletes. And we had 120 student athletes within our football program that were no longer experiencing the success I thought they needed to experience. Barry Loney's a former student athlete. He's a Razorback through and through. When I called him yesterday morning and told him the decision I'd made with the change in the leadership, and I asked Barry to step up, and I asked Barry under very tough circumstances to take on the leadership of our football program. And without pause, he told me yes. I know I will get Barry's best during the next 3 weeks because he loves his football program, he loves this university, he loves this state, and he's invested in what we're trying to do. And I know he truly loves the 120 men that he's now leading within our football program. As I begin this search, I have no doubt that we will have a very strong candidate pool for this head coaching position. Why do I believe that? First, we are the University of Arkansas. We have a very proud and storied tradition within our football program that includes 42 bowl games, a national championship, 13 conference championships, multiple All-Americans and Hall of Fame inductees. We have and we offer our student athletes some of the best facilities in the country. We compete in the Southeastern Conference, and we have a passionate fan base that so desperately wants for this program to be successful. We've had many of our athletic programs currently that are competing on a national level and winning national championships within our athletic department. Our football program can be one of those programs.
Thank you, Hunter. Coach Lund.
You bet. Well, first of all, I want to say thanks to Hunter for the opportunity and the belief that he had in me to be able to be the guy to step in.
Yep. Welcome back. Welcome back. It's our Monday edition. It's our recap edition. And we got a whole bunch going on as it came out yesterday, was finally announced and confirmed that Arkansas Athletic Director Hunter Yurachek has let go of former Arkansas head coach Chad Morris. The news came down early yesterday morning around 10:30 hour. Was not anything any of us didn't expect. I was expecting it to happen on Saturday, but you knew going in that, this Mississippi State and Western Kentucky game, and we talked about it over the last few weeks, were really, really crucial for Chad Morris's future going forward. And, he's a great guy, a really good recruiter, but there's still some things I think Coach Morris has to continue to learn on the collegiate level as a head coach. This guy's a great offensive mind, and I think he's a great collegiate coach. Just don't think at this moment being a coach in the SEC is something that he's ready for. Maybe here in the coming years, as I've seen Ed Orgeron go from his first stint as the SEC coach there at Ole Miss. He's a totally different coach, a lot more mature. Has allowed his coaches, Randa and Coach Brady, to run both the offensive and defensive as they see fit, and just plays his role. The guy's a big-time first-class recruiter and really understands what it takes to get it done on the lines of scrimmage in the SEC, as he's a well-renowned defensive line coach for so many years at USC, with the New Orleans Saints, and with LSU prior to becoming the head coach. So I think, and that's why I continue to go back to Coach Sam Pittman. He's my number one choice because of those types of relationships that I think he can build. Sam doesn't have any kids, so I think that helps, with the process of being able to just, endear yourself to each and every young man on that football roster. And I think, Sam would be great. Another caller had mentioned Mike Norvell. His name came up prior to Chad Morris getting the job. And, that's a name that has come up in this state with him having ties, being a former UCA grad, wide receiver at Central Arkansas. Has, wife is from the state of Arkansas, a lot of ties to this state. That's a name that I think is going to continue to come up. But me, I think, I would like to see someone that really understands the University of Arkansas. Demetrius, I think that's going to be first and foremost also, is understanding the culture of this school and being able to endear yourself to this fan base. Because as we know, you watch social media, each and every day, each and every night, this fan base is hungry and starving for a winner in college football. They are just waiting to get behind the next coach that can reinvigorate this football program, Dimitri.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to take somebody special. I don't think it's an overnight decision because Arkansas has to get somebody that they're going to be comfortable with for the next 4 years. Because if they keep doing this 1 to 2 year stints of head coaches, they're never going to get stable. They're gonna go bankruptcy if we keep paying all these buyouts and coaches. I don't know what I seen the settlement on 5. Then I seen you came in and informed me Chad got the full 10. So you're talking about now you're still dealing with 2 coaches that you bought out that haven't even done a total of 4 years.
Right.
So
man, think about that. 2 football
crazy,
coaches,
man.
a basketball coach, and an athletic director that have been let go here at the University of Arkansas.
Yeah,
Now, if that doesn't tell me that they're trying to make a commitment to winning, and they're tired of average.
Well, I don't think it's a commitment to winning. I don't think because you hire more people doesn't mean it's a commitment to winning. Because if you're looking from a organization point, a lot of this blame goes to the organizers that chose to hire these guys. I think the best decision these last couple of years or the hire they made was Yurichek. And I think Yurichek hiring Musselman, right now it looks good. We don't really know how it's going to play out, but right now it shows a lot of promise. But even when you look at like Brett Bielema, I didn't think he was really qualified to come to the SEC. That was Jeff Long's hire, but that wasn't a good hire to me.
Right.
Even when you go look at his Wisconsin resume, the guy inherited a championship team. They were winning. They were going to Rose Bowls before Brett Bielema took over as. I'm trying to think of the AD that was at Wisconsin. That was the former coach. I can't think of his name right now, but he was the coach before Brett Bielema. And then he moved to the athletic director and pretty much gave Brett Bielema the keys to the Cadillac. Like, hey, I got everything in position. All you have to do is keep this train running. And he messed that up. Right. So to me, we really haven't been doing a good job from an organization standpoint until we hired a year check. And again, he doesn't even have, to me, the credentials as far as like why he should be here. He hasn't done anything to me yet. But again, the Eric Musselman hire looks good, but we won't know how that really plays out to a couple of years.
See, I think I'm a real big fan of Hunter. I just like his fiber. I think this man, the end all be all is about wins and butts in seats. And I think that's where the athletic director has to really, own it and really go out and do what's best for the program. And I think, he made a statement today in his press conference with us. It's about those 120 men, and speaking with them, he felt that, they didn't have the passion and desire to have a very fun experience. And that's real big. That's real big because, the locker room is so important. As far as success or no success of a program. And I think, like I said, you go back to the Kentucky game and you could see it the following week versus Auburn and then Alabama and then Mississippi State and then Western Kentucky. This was a different football team. I didn't see the heart. I didn't see the drive. I think the best game that I saw this team play and it was a loss, was A&M. That's when I felt like this team was taking steps forward. But they took too many back over the last couple of weeks. And then, Saturday was the culmination of just a team that went out and showed up because they had to. I know, Terry, we had a question about Devois Whaley getting 1 carry. There was a lot of question marks in that play calling. Why Raheem Boyd got 8, so if you put Devois and Raheem 9 carries. I even had a question as far as, how the coverage was going because I seen a lot of one-on-one matchups. Trey Knox at one point had a 5'11" cornerback on him, and they weren't going to his side. So there was a lot of, and it's been that way in the last 2 years, a lot of uncertainty on the offensive side of the ball and not understanding matchups during the ball game. It was just, to me, I thought it was just too vanilla, too much scheme and not enough players being able to play. Sometimes you got to throw out the scheme and you got to let your dogs be dogs and go eat. And I didn't think that that's what happened. And I think that's going to be something real big. You're going to have a very aggressive coach that's going to hire 2 aggressive coordinators and play the style of football that you have to play in the SEC to compete. And that's you have to win the line of scrimmage, go recruit speed, and you have to run the football. and stop the run. And I guess that's all tied into winning the line of scrimmage. But it's going to be a very, very, very interesting search. I know Hunter Yurchek made us aware that he has a list of candidates. We'll start reaching out to those candidates as early as today with his search. The committee there at the University of Arkansas. But I think based on what he's done with, like I said, Eric Musselman and Jordan Weber. I think Hunter Yurchek's going to bring in a guy that's going to really be a surprise. And I think this guy's going to get it because, like I said, this is the most important hire here at the University of Arkansas. Football is the cash cow for the program. They foot a lot of the bill.
I think that's about to change. It may be a change in the regards where basketball has to take on a lot of that responsibility. Not only basketball, track too as well. In baseball, I think right now, if you look at the state of where the football program is, there's no way this can turn around in a year. There's no way it can turn around too. This is probably a 3-year rebuilding phase that we're in right now.
And Christopher Shaw, Chris got a bunch of good comments. I'll give you guys some insight on the atmosphere of a game I witnessed. I spent $400 for the Bama versus Razorbacks. My wife and I sat on the 45 first row behind the Hogs bench. And when we pulled Jones out, let's see. When we pulled Jones out, put Starkle just in to throw an interception. Craddock told Nick he was doing great. Keep up the good work. And the O-line coach told the O-line to keep their heads up, and that was while receivers were laughing and joking and worrying about their hair. Our next coaching staff has to uphold standards and discipline. Absolutely. I mean, multiple times I'd seen the sideline where there was a lot of disrespect going on, Demetrius. Let's just call it like we see it. I mean, that's call it like we see it. Let's don't sugarcoat. That's what I mean by the next coach has to come in and he has to establish a discipline in his program that stuff is not tolerated. Yeah, you gotta have a butt kicking coach. I mean, the one thing, and I wasn't a big Bobby Petrino guy. I'm not gonna lie about it. I thought he was a great offensive mind, but as far as a runner of an entire program, but the one thing I will give Bobby Petrino credit for, the players respected Bobby. Bobby made those guys be tough. Bobby made those guys become men and go out, and he got the best out of each young man. When it was time to hit that field, those kids played with a toughness, never made excuses, and that's but so you have to give credit to that young man. You have to give credit to Bobby Petrino for what he was able to do, and I think that's what it's going to take, a coach that will hold each one of these young men to a standard, and if they fall underneath that standard, there's going to be some penalties. I mean, you're going to have to find out who wants to be here and who doesn't right off the rip. I mean, let's just put it out there.
I think when you're on a college level, it takes a coach to be an asshole because you get so many top recruits that used to being the king on their team. When you're recruiting, just take Nick Saban example. Nick has to be like that because these kids come in with big heads being the number one player out of their city, being the number one player out of their state. You have to have that. No, this is my ship. We're gonna do it the way we want to, and how we want to. But if you're letting the players run your ship, it's never gonna go right. And that's where I think,
And another point.
Chad ran a couple of flags.
When you look at these coaching staffs, a lot of African American coaches, assistant coaches throughout the SEC and I understand being African American, man, you have to be able to have coaches that can reach these kids that have walked in these kids' shoes. Most of these, like I said, these guys come out of single parent homes, and they need to have guys or leaders of men that's walked in their shoes. And I think you got to have some guys that when they need to be told the real, those assistant coaches are going to be over there telling them the real, and even the head coaches. At OC, there needs to be some harsh reality injected into this program. Love, but also some tough love as well, and a lot of passion, and make these kids have pride about being at the University of Arkansas. The one thing that I've always watched over social media over the last few years is how the former Razorbacks, the past Razorbacks that understand greatness, how they've been disappointed with the performance, and they're starting to come out more verbally with their displeasure of the way the state of the Razorback program is going, dude.
Yeah, I just got Christopher. He keep hitting us with good information. He said, "What's your thought on Charlie Strong? He's the Arkansas from Batesville. Charlie Strong. I thought that was a guy I was trying to get hired before Brett Bielema. I thought he was a guy. He had just came off of that Louisville stint where he had Lamar Jackson. To me, that was the guy that I wanted before Brett. I was a big Charlie Strong guy. I loved the way he ran his ship. I think he's the reason Texas is even in the conversation of getting back to where they used to be. I think he knows how to rebuild a team. Even when you go back and examine what he did at Louisville with what Petrino left, he just shows me he has a track record, and he can recruit. Anytime you have Lamar Jackson, which is one of the top quarterbacks in the league, playing the way he does, that can vouch for you and say, hey, this guy can get you where you need to be. That goes a long way.
See, Charlie would be a great defensive coordinator for me.
Man, I give him head coach. I was
He'd be a great
about him
defensive
years ago.
coordinator.
That's who I wanted them to get before Brett. I was big on Charlie Strong. He had the resume to me, but I don't think Arkansas was really ready to make that transition to the first black head coach. I think that was really what scared a lot of people away from Charlie. And I still think Arkansas is. I'm not sure if they're ready for a black head coach. Because I look at the short span that they gave Chad Morris. You give Chad Morris 2 years. Yes, he did lose. But, okay, now that you know what he's working with, because now the next coach is going to have to inherit this. If the coach doesn't come in and produce right away, it's going to be hell to pay because they're going to look at him like, hey, why aren't you producing? So that's why I say I'm not really sure if this is the best situation to put an African-American coach in position to really be the coach here at Arkansas because I think with what the fan base has been dealing with the last 10 years, they have a short leash, and especially with him being African American, it's gonna be even shorter because we just saw a winning coach in Mike Anderson get fired because he couldn't take the team to the next level and beat those juggernaut Kentuckys, the juggernaut, the Tennessees. He would kind of choke up at the end. So, it's interesting.
I think I think they're ready for any type. I think they're ready for a good coach. I think the fan base and this administrative department there on the university are ready to win. And I think if it's an African American, if it's whatever, I think if the guy can come here and be motivated, that's the key. I'll continue to say it. The next head coach has got to motivate these kids. Get these kids to play as hard as they can play every snap for each other and build a culture where it's truly a family where they're playing to win. Every single snap, any means necessary, that you can sit in the stands and as a coach, you don't want your players to be questioned on their effort. That never comes up. And the one thing you always want to, because I coach summer basketball, the greatest compliment to a head coach in his program is when people say they play hard. That's the greatest compliment. And you never want the fans, the administrators to question the way your team plays. That's the greatest compliment. I think that's what it's going to take here. Get these kids motivated. Houston Nutt wasn't the greatest Section O guy, but I agree with what Boo Williams said. He can motivate. Man, that man can make a blind man want to play football.
And, man, I really don't know. Because I think it's going to take more than a motivator. Because this is a situation where you have to have organization and you have to have structure. Because Arkansas is in such a dumpster fire that you have to have a guy with vision. You have to have a guy that knows exactly what he wants to do within this program. It can't be a guy that comes here and is like, oh man, I wasn't expecting this. They have to have a for sure plan. Because even when you look at Arkansas's schedule within the next year, we're playing better teams than we're going to be playing that we played in the last 2 years. We're going to be playing the harder part of our schedule.
What's crazy is that they're going to have a better team. Whoever gets this job is going to inherit another older football team. With these 52 younger guys, with this freshman class, if you can keep 80 to 90% of these freshmen with the sophomores that were real impactful, I've said it to my brother and I talked and told a lot of people, and I'll go on record today as saying, whoever the coach gets over within 2 years, in year 2, he's going to have a very good football team, kind of like Tom Herman. He's going to have it's really imperative, this freshman class. This freshman class is the most important going forward for this program.
So that being said, okay, if you're a coach, right, because we know some of these kids are going to transfer out of here. What's the one kid that you have to have on offensive defense for the next coach to come in that you cannot lose? These have to be the 2 corner pieces on my offense and on my defense that I must have as a head coach. Because
see, this is what I like. This is why I like the way Hunter did it. They have a week off. There's an open week. So now these kids have a chance to digest, be it freshmen, be it redshirt freshmen, or be it sophomores, because these are Chad's guys. They can digest if they want to be here or not. You'll be able to sit back here over the coming weeks and be able to pick, once you know who the coach is, what you want to do. There's a lot to sell. When I know they're going to have a lot of conversations here in the coming weeks with a lot of this entire roster. When you know who's going to be here and who's not, then you have more to sell to that coach. And I think, the KJs, Traylon Burks, Trey Knox, I mean, there's so many in this freshman class that you really can't pinpoint one because they were all special. I mean, this was a top 25 class of football players, with the only one now not in that 26-man roster, Devin Bush. So if you can keep, like I said, 80%, 85, 90% of that freshman class, they're going to make plays. I mean, there was 14 four-star kids in that group that could have gone anywhere in the country. So if those 14 or 13, you take out Devin Bush, if all 13 of those kids stay here, they're going to be a good football team. I mean, there's just too much talent in that freshman, redshirt freshman. Those 52 underclassmen it's a lot of talent in there. So in 2 years, the football coach here should, depending on the staff that he gets, I think that's going to be key too. What type of staff will he surround himself with? That's going to be real key. But I do think that the future's not too far away, of this program turning around. It's just, you want to give Chad time, but, I mean, each and every Saturday, there was nothing that you could go on. It just seemed like it got worse, and you left there with less and less hope that Chad was going to be retained.
I'm going to come out and say the one player that can't lose is KJ. I don't care what nobody says. You have to have a quarterback that you can build on right now, because there's no way a coach is going to come in here at the end of the year and be able to recruit a quarterback.
Yeah. I seriously don't think KJ's leaving.
I hope, because
really don't.
I think KJ understands that it's people out there that wants KJ to come to their team and come to a winning program.
Right.
It's already been people, I'm surprised it's not a tampering, but it's already been coaches that have came out and said, if KJ enters the transfer pool, we're going to be one of the first coaches to go after him. So to me, I think the one player you can't lose is KJ. You have to have a quarterback going into next year that you know for sure that I can build off of. And if KJ transfers, that means you don't have Starkle, and I mean you got Nick Starkle. You don't have Ben Hicks anymore. You have John Stephen Jones, but you got to think we're not recruiting any more quarterbacks anymore. The quarterback commits that we did have decommitted. So again, I think KJ is the one piece that you have to make sure that you have as a head coach going into next year. Even if he decides to transfer the year after you get here, you have to have KJ Jefferson stay for the University of Arkansas to at least be that cornerstone piece as your quarterback going into next year to make sure he stays. That's the one player you have to make sure stays for this team.
And I think, when KJ looks at it, I mean, he is the future of the program. I mean, he'll get the bulk of the reps come spring ball. And I think the new coach, it'll be a clean slate. I think KJ will be Arkansas starting quarterback next year as a redshirt freshman and beyond. Big things ahead for this young man going forward in collegiate football. So to think Traylon Burks, I think people need to get used to Jefferson to Burks a lot here in the coming years, because that just seems to be a connection. And with those two guys being roommates, you can already see the chemistry. I think Monte Spivey is another young man. I mean, just that freshman class, I have to say, is the most important piece to this whole job. The interest level with this is, I think the freshman class are what most of these coaches, and some could be real impressive coaches that Arkansas or Hunter Yurchek would like to speak with. I think that's going. That coach is going to look and see how much of this 52-man young roster is still going to be intact, and out of that 52-man roster, how many were really significant in this season and going forward. There's a lot of youth on this football team, and I totally agree with what Chad and that staff said. I mean, they played a lot of young kids, and the future really does look bright. But it's going to be real interesting to see who they bring in. I know we're going to be coming to you each and every day, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be new names that pop up along the way, but we'll try to be there as much as we can. That's going to wrap up our show today, our Monday recap, as we'll be back tomorrow. We have a game. On the Hill will be covering tonight's women's basketball game at Bud Walton Arena. We'll have post game from players and Coach Neighbors. Also, too, we'll have just much more. I mean, it's going to be an incredible week for us on the Hill Sports Talk. But that's going to wrap it up. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Lindsay and Associates, with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also too in Rogers. Locomotion, located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall. Corey Beck's Custom Painting. And lastly, KDK's Chicken. It's located at 989 Razorback Road. Go down and see Keith and Kathy and get you some of that love. Like I said, it's not your mama's. The best chicken and waffles in the South. But until tomorrow, we'll be back with much more from my producer, Demetria Johnson, and myself. To all our viewers and listeners, it's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. You guys have a blessed one, and let's get it.